Hello, and welcome to our Tarot History series. We're not going into too much depth in every card, but we're going to be discussing the history of the cards as a whole. This is from the Teach Yourself Fortune Telling Guide by Rachel Pollack, and it is an overview of the tarot history. Two magnificently detailed cards from the tarot pack long believed to have been made for the mad King Charles VI of France, but which are now thought to be Italian and to date from about 1470. These early tarot packs had no names or numbers drawn on them, and the illustrations would have been clearly understood. And we're talking about these cards pictured here. So these medieval cards from 1470s. Fortune telling and the tarot. The tarot is one of the great systems of divination. These systems open the user to a world far beyond that of simple fortune telling. As well as the tarot, they include the Chinese I Ching, the Scandinavian runes, astrology, and the Ifa divination used by the Yoruba people of Africa. All show the special double function, a method of telling fortunes that leads to spiritual wisdom. All three belong to what I have called the first method of divination. The user takes a set of fixed pieces, a deck of cards in the case of the tarot, each of which it carries a definite meaning. He or she then mixes them up and takes several out. The pattern they produces the reading. Since each piece has a specific interpretation, you can build important meanings into the system itself. Then, whenever you use it to answer your questions, you can also expose yourself to its ideas and wisdom. Exactly this has happened with the tarot. Whatever its origins, it has gathered to know it to itself over the centuries, especially the last two, a vast amount of knowledge, ideas, and even mystic experience. This process is still evolving. You do not need to immerse yourself in philosophy or mysticism in order to appreciate or make use of the cards. Most people who have followed the tarot's inner pathways begin with a simple desire to tell fortunes. The tarot does not demand, it offers. Obviously, if you study texts and meditate on the symbolism, you will enter the tarot's secrets more directly. But even if you never do more than ask questions about relationships and job opportunities, you will still expose yourself to the tarot's wisdom. The tarot contains a philosophy. It leads to an awareness of spiritual values, including optimism and the power of the soul to raise itself from despair. The tarot provides a method of activating and understanding the imagination. It aids us in learning to confront ourselves. The way to all of these things lies through readings. At one time, occult workers with the tarot tended to denigrate the practice of readings at which they regarded as trivial, even an insult. Today, however, in the midst of what some people have called a tarot renaissance, more and more people have come to realize the value of readings as a practical and direct method of approaching the cards. Most serious books now being published on the tarot will delve into such subjects as the mystic tree of life. They will also, however, devote a great deal of attention to readings. Here we will look at the tarot primarily in its most common and practical context as a method of divination. Structure. The tarot consists of 78 cards, 22 trump cards, plus 4 suits of 14 cards each. The word trump derives from triumph. In the game of tarot, if you play a trump, you will triumph over opportunities playing suit cards. In occult tradition, the 22 trumps bear the collective name Major Arcana, a term which means greater secrets. The four suits together carry the name Minor Arcana or lesser secrets. The trumps all bear names and numbers. The Fool is 0, while the other cards appear in sequence beginning with the Magician at number 1 and ending with the World at number 21. Although the very oldest deck do not carry these numbers or names, they appeared fairly early in the tarot's history, and they now belong firmly to decks used as playing cards as well as those used for fortune-telling and esoteric study. Each of the four suits bears an emblem. Older decks and those designed in a traditional manner show the emblems rods or staves, cups, swords, and coins or discs. Many modern decks have changed rods to wands and coins to pentacles, 5-pointed stars enclosed in gold discs. In virtually all tarot decks, the suits number 1 through 10 with 4 court cards. Usually, the court cards bear the names Page, Knight, King, and Queen. Each one shows the appropriate figure holding the emblem of the suit. Some modern decks have changed these designations. Following the occult order of the Golden Dawn, occultist Aleister Crowley called the court cards Princess, Prince, Queen, and Knight. The Mother Piece Tarot, a feminist deck which is round rather than rectangular in shape, uses daughter, son, shaman, and priestess. The Native American tarot uses maiden, warrior, matriarch, and chief. Aleister Crowley was the most notorious magician of the 20th century, as well as writing his own very detailed book about the tarot. He also designed a pack of cards which were full of erotic symbolism. History. No one really knows the origin of the tarot. People have commonly associated with the Romanis or gypsies, but the evidence indicates that this association did not begin until the tarot had established itself in southern Europe. Another old theory considers the tarot to be a coded form of ancient Egyptian magic, the Book of Thoth, a title which Aleister Crowley later adopted for his own tarot deck painted by Frida Harris. Few students today see any real historical links with Egypt, nor do they take seriously the idea that refugees from Atlantis created the cards to encode their wisdom before it vanished forever beneath the sea. Recently, a researcher named Barbara Walker has attempted to demonstrate that the cards derive from the goddess-worshipping Tantra tradition in India. Most occultists, however, connect the tarot primarily to Kabbalah, a vast and complex system of esoteric teachings. Though Jewish in origin, the Kabbalah greatly influenced magic and mysticism throughout Europe. Even today, if you read the Spells in a Grimoire, a magician's book for calling up spirits, many of the mystical names will be derived from Hebrew. The links between the tarot and the Kabbalah are quite impressive. The Kabbalah bases itself on the secret meanings of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. The tarot, in turn, contains 22 trumps. The Kabbalah uses the image of the 10 positions or Sephiroth on the tree of life. It teaches as well that there are 4 trees extending through 4 worlds or stages of creation. The tarot itself contains 4 suits, each with cards 1 through 10 plus 4 court cards. In addition, people working in this tradition have found or created impressive thematic connections between Kabbalistic ideas and the images shown in the tarot. One serious drawback remains in proving this theory, however. In all the thousands of Kabbalistic texts, with their detailed explanations and theories, no reference exists to the tarot or anything like it. In fact, esoterists did not establish these connections until the 19th century, when the French occultist Eliphas Levi began, with others, to use the cards as a tool for working with the Kabbalah. Levi's original name was Alphonse Louis Constant. In contrast to all those European Jews who were then taking Christian names, Constant changed his name to a Hebrew one. The lack of a historical connection with Kabbalah has led many people to dismiss Levi's ideas as nonsense. Along with the work of Crowley, Arthur Waite, whose cards appear between pages 75 and 108, and the other occultists who developed this approach. Such critics might be described as throwing the baby out with the bathwater, for even if history should come down against the Kabbalistic theory, the fact remains that people have made this connection, even if they have made it only in the last 150 years. We can use this knowledge just as we can use the many new ideas and values people have found in the cards in recent years. Still, the question of origin remains a tantalizing one. Historically, the first tarot cards appeared in Italy around the end of the 14th century. In the 15th century, the artist Bonifacio Bimbo painted a number of cards for the Visconti family, rulers of Milan. One of these decks has recently been published in a mass market edition. What did these cards mean to these people? Were they simply a game? Certainly long before the occult revival seized hold of the cards, the game of tarocchi, to give it its Italian name, or le tarot, as it was known in France, was played in Southern Europe. An ancestor of bridge, le tarot, is still popular. Our ordinary playing cards probably derived from the tarot. The cards we use for bridge or poker have simply dropped the 22 trumps and the 4 knights, reducing 78 to 52. The fact that the deck has changed so little from those earlier examples implies that Bimbo did not originate it, but only created his own version of something already in existence. Many people believe the tarot began as a game with images drawn from the ordinary life of European society, and that the occult ideas never existed in the cards, which should not be taken seriously. The world from the tarot pack, designed by the Italian Bonifacio Bimbo in the 15th century from the Accademia Carrara in Bergamo, Italy, and it looks like this. Eliphas Levi, one of the leaders of the French occult revival in the 19th century. He was a prolific author, and his many books on magic continue to exert a wide influence. It was Levi who first linked the tarot to the Kabbalah. And here's a picture of Eliphas Levi. From the ordinary life of European society and that the occult, and yet certain images among the trumps imply that some sort of secret meaning were hidden in the cards when they were first drawn. The card of the female pope, for example, links the tarot to an underground tradition of resistance to an all-male clergy. In the year 1300, the church burned to death a woman named Manfreda Visconti. A sect known as the Guglielmites had chosen Manfreda as the first female pope in a supposedly new age in which women would occupy the papacy. Pope Manfreda belonged to the same Visconti family for whom Bimbo had painted his cards nearly 1.5 centuries later. And what must we make of the Hanged Man? The illustration on page 79 shows a man hanging upside down, an ancient image of spiritual awakening. In yoga, people stand on their heads to help remove the energy from the base of the spine to the brain. In the runes chapter, we will see that the god Odin hung on a tree for 9 days in order to receive the secret wisdom. In the 19th century, Eliphas Levi began his great linking of tarot and Kabbalah. Esoteric decks began to appear, some with Hebrew letters on the card, a practice still found on many decks today. Around the turn of the century, Levi's ideas began to spread abroad, especially to England, where occult groups began using the tarot in their rituals. The most famous of these was the Order of the Golden Dawn, mentioned above, which developed its own tarot deck, changing some of the numbers and images. The last few years have seen a great resurgence of interest in the tarot, with literally hundreds of new decks being produced. Many of the designers have recreated the ancient images and linked them to various traditions varying from Tibetan Buddhism, the I Ching, and Tantra, to initiation practices among the Maya. Quite a number of women's tarots have appeared, utilizing goddess images from around the world in place of the normal designs. People have created tarots specifically to aid meditation and healing. Others have linked the cards to cultural traditions such as Native American tarot, with its scenes from the Indian cultures of North and South America. A number of serious artists have also painted decks. Salvador Dali's paintings and collages combine images taken from art history and the work of famous artists with the occult symbolism of the tarot tradition. In Italy, home of one of the oldest decks, a number of young artists have produced cards as works of contemporary art. Also in Italy, the sculptress Niki de Sant Fale has created a massive tarot pack from concrete with some of the trump figures as large as buildings. The Rider Pack. The cards show between pages 75 and 108 are called the Rider Pack, after their original publishers, the Rider Company of London. Designed by Arthur Edward Waite and painted by Pamela Colman Smith, they first appeared in 1910. They have since proved the most popular tarot, appearing in various editions. Many recent decks have based their design, particularly in the suit cards, on Pamela Smith's scenes and images. You will notice that the Rider Pack uses Roman numerals. I prefer to use Arabic numerals as these have more significance in readings. Waite made certain changes in the trumps, altering the Lovers, Death, the Emperor, and the Sun. Following the Golden Dawn, he switched around Strength and Justice. Traditionally, Strength is 11 and Justice is 8. In the Rider Pack, they show up respectively as 8 and 11. Though Waite considered these changes important, the deck's popularity stems much more from the minor arcana. In all previous decks, the numbered cards had simply displayed a formal design. For instance, the Four of Swords would show four crossed swords against a plain background. The Eight of Cups might show 8 cups arranged in rows. For the Rider pack, however, Pamela Smith drew an actual scene on every card. In the Four of Swords, a knight lies on a stone table in a church. Swords hang above him and below him. In the Eight of Cups, a man climbs a hill under the full moon. At the bottom stand 8 cups. The use of the Rider pack here does not mean that readers must use this particular set of cards. A wide variety of tarot decks is now on sale. Choose the one that appeals to you. You may find that you prefer one of the older decks. Many people like the sense of tradition these provide, or you might find yourself drawn to one of the more recent decks. Arthur Edward Waite, photographed by E.O. Hopp, was an American who spent most of his life in England and became a member of the Order of the Golden Dawn. Together with Pamela Coleman Smith, he designed the best-known modern tarot pack, and he wrote the standard English introduction to the tarot. And here is a picture of Mr. Waite. So these follow the Rider pack by depicting a scene on each card, and the artist has frequently based his or her choices largely on Smith's drawings. The meanings will also remain very close. You might find yourself drawn to more than one deck. Many people who become involved in tarot end up as collectors. An acquaintance of mine owns an entire bookcase filled with cards, from antique ones, which are centuries old, to new cartoon cards created as publicity material for a James Bond film. It is not uncommon to own between 10 and 20 sets of cards. Some people continue to use one special deck out of their collection, while others use several. One friend of mine uses different decks for readings depending on the person and the kind of question she wants to ask. You will probably want to begin with one deck, learn it well, and develop a relationship with it. When you first bring it home, spend some time with the pictures before you begin your readings. Explore your own reactions to the cards. Whatever deck you buy will probably come with an instruction booklet. This will give you brief meanings for each of the cards. Read the descriptions and then compare these to the cards themselves. Choose cards at random. Lay them next to each other and let them stimulate your imagination. The Italian novelist Italo Calvino once called the tarot a machine for telling stories. See what stories your cards produce when you place them beside each other or move them around. If you choose a deck other than the Rider pack, you can still use the meanings given here, since they will work with any set of cards. You can also work with the meanings given in this instruction booklet in conjunction with those given here. As you become more practiced, you will develop a sense of what your cards mean to you. If an entirely new interpretation of a particular card suggests itself to you, either in a specific reading or in general, do add it to your set of possible meanings. Most people who work with tarot cards keep them in a wooden box or wrapped in silk. You should also not let people handle your cards except when mixing them for a reading. Keep them in a special place when not working with them. Do not treat your cards frivolously. If you wish to play the game of Le Tarot, you should use a separate deck, preferably one of those designed as playing cards. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me. This was Teach Yourself Fortune Telling, the Tarot Edition section by Rachel Pollack. And I sincerely appreciate your support, your likes, your shares, and your subscribes. I hope that this video benefits you tremendously and that you learned some new things or reinforced some things you already knew. And I will talk to you all very, very soon. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate your comments and uh, your questions as well. I welcome your questions. So thank you so much and have a beautiful, beautiful day. Many blessings from Mystic Ashram signing off.